much better. I'll be right back. I'm gonna get my ears.
Thank you, Judy.
Oh,
Okay, now you can hear me.
Now you can hear you.
Great.
okay.
Great.
Did Steve respond to the meeting?
Yes, he said he was coming.
Okay, good. He's got to get his sleep. He's going to be plowing a lot and
Yeah.
standing a lot.
I think it starts at about midnight or 1 tonight or something.
Yeah,
But tomorrow morning we'll get up with a little snow on the ground.
Have it all day till tomorrow night.
I didn't take my plow off the tractor. I figured that would work to keep the snow away, but it didn't work this time.
Oh, so we can blame the storm on you.
Well, if I took it off, definitely, I mean. But yeah, anyway, the ground got frozen, which is really a good thing
yep.
because it was pretty soft there after that warm day,
Oh, we have the mud ruts up on Wendell Road and by the lake.
all
But
frozen.
Steve and his crew, or the DPW crew, did a wonderful job. They went by with a grader, did some extra stuff to it. So
Oh, really? Recently?
just yesterday I think with some really deep ruts.
That's great because then it froze nice and solid for you.
Right, except for the ones that are still there that were frozen, you couldn't grade. So,
Mm.
well, we got another week or so with freezing. Those minutes that we were talking about, remember you sent the first day I agreed to do minutes? And you sent something to Grace about that meeting. Maybe it was the other meeting before the one.
Well, I just know that the first meeting that I remember you recording and submitting to us was
Right,
one we had with the select board. And the
right.
next meeting, we voted on those minutes,
Right.
right? And then Grace told you that they were no good because we didn't take a roll call. She listened to the recording of the meeting and saw that we didn't take a roll call vote, told us we had to vote on them again. So that's what we aim to do tonight, but
Right.
that was a meeting. So,
Okay, then I might have dropped the ball on that one.
because we'll have to look at the recording of that meeting and see if we can make some minutes. Will you do that?
Yes, I will.
Okay. Hi, Dan and Michael here. We're waiting for Steve Sullivan. I hope he's gonna remember.
Have we heard anything about Mike joining the buildings committee meeting?
Well,
Or
I
buildings?
think one of the
committee?
things, no, we haven't, but one of the things we'll discuss tonight is that issue. And I guess we should wait for the meeting to, be called to order. So I was gonna just send Steve an email and see if I can rally him.
Get him out of bed.
I hear voices there. Whose TV is that?
Probably mine.
Okay, fine. Just don't stop mine. Let's see.
Everyone ready for the storm?
Yeah, why not?
Yep.
I got a shovel.
I got my 6 buckets of sand this afternoon for the road. After they come by, I resand. They have such a steep road to go up. Do you have Steve's telephone number?
I don't have it. I just looked it up in my contacts.
Yeah,
Does anybody else have it?
I do not.
Becky?
Oh,
Becky's
Becky
gonna
does.
call.
I just pulled it up. I have very little voice, so
Oh.
I'm trying not to talk
Oh.
much tonight.
Gee, what is that?
Ah. They say to talk low. It's the only way it
It's like
comes
Nancy
out.
Pelosi.
Wonderful.
Oh. Steve just said, I will be a few minutes late talking. Oh no, he's talking to his daughter. There's a somewhat of an emergency, so
Okay.
he will get here shortly.
Oh, good.
Well, I'll just describe what I think we might try to cover tonight as the minutes that we revote.
Mhm.
The Mike Vinsky issue, revote that. And just go over our tour and what we discovered. I think I sent everybody a copy
Yep.
of what I drafted from that.
Yep.
We'll go over that and just get whatever your comments and add additions, subtractions, amendments, whatever. And then the projects, and then I thought we would talk about a potential survey that we could design to send around to town departments, asking them to describe whatever they see coming up so that we can look at that, look at whatever they bring up, evaluate it, develop a timeline, some kind of description of what needs to be done, when, so forth. Like we've been talking about that for a while, and I think we should try to start to organize that this year, this spring, and get something together. So I think, anyway, we'll discuss that during the meeting. And Becky, I can ask you this because I don't think it has to do with Bill, but you probably don't want to talk. But so I'll talk to you later about it, or I'll write to you about it. Okay. But is Tyler going to get paid?
He was, yeah,
He's paid? Good.
yeah. When he sent back his W-9, he said he emailed it to me, but it didn't show up in my emails. And we needed that to move stuff along. So it's all in process now. And I talked to him
Oh, good.
and
Thanks.
apologized, but that's the hang up.
Great. You don't sound too good. Do you feel terrible still or what? Not bad.
Mm.
But it's mostly just in my throat. Better than in the lungs.
Yes.
Do you have COVID, Becky?
No, I took 2 tests.
So are you waiting for a quorum?
Yeah, I'm waiting for Steve.
And Steve texted, he'll be here shortly, but he's got a bit of an emergency.
Okay, so if we have a moment, I'd like to introduce myself to Frank. My name is Dan Hayes. I'm on the school committee.
Hey, Dan.
So I wanted to attend tonight just because I want to see that things continue to move forward. You guys have been working hard, looking at our building, and also to sort of just touch base on sort of protocols. What do we do when something happens? Who do we notify? So that we can get things fixed. And Becky, did I send you that as well? A list? I'm looking at my email. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it would have been good to have this as an agenda item too, but
Yeah, it wasn't on the agenda, so I just wanted to mention it.
No,
That's
that's
why I'm
great.
here.
It's
Not-
important. And
Yeah, and we can talk about it in the future. There's no rush, but I just want to make sure that we have a new director of finance and operations. We'd like to make sure that she is aware of how processes work so that we can, move or usher projects along and through. So we don't need to talk about this tonight, but I just wanted to let you know why I'm here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you send me the list too, Pam?
I did, but I can send it to you again.
No, I'll search for it. I was just inquiring.
Yeah, it looks like it was on maybe like February 10th.
Okay. I know I read one piece you wrote, so it's probably the same one.
I'll send you it tomorrow, so no worries. Don't search for it.
Okay.
And again, it was a draft. It's something for us to look at. I'm not telling you all this is the way it should be or how it's got to be done, but I felt it was important for her to have an outline of who does what or how do things work.
I did read through that.
Yeah, so again, it's just my thoughts, and from that, maybe we could make it a little bit more like a flow chart or whatever, but okay.
Thank you. Steve texted, he said 5 minutes about a minute ago.
Okay,
Okay.
let's see here. Yeah, so what else is new, Frank? Jim
Been
Hemingway
hiking
said
a
the
lot.
power went out down the lake a couple of days ago. Is your power
Not
go
on
out?
our side. I didn't notice anything. Well, it might have gone on our side. I did notice one of the clocks was flashing, but I wasn't here when it happened then. We've been
It only
lucky.
was out, it was only out for about 20 minutes, half an hour, and it was because of the pole being moved. The wires for the pole at
The
the dam,
telephone company moved the pole at the dam?
the National Grid. Well, they haven't moved the pole yet, but they redirected the wires, step one.
Oh.
They did step one. It only took a year and a month.
Oh. I walked by that the other day, last week, and said, oh, it's still here, so I know we have to move it. So now they've got some stuff to do.
So where's your
And I
house?
noticed that, excuse me?
Where's your house?
I'm on the southeast side of the lake, down the Laurel Drive.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know if it affected the power affected that road, because we're on the other side. We're off Wendell.
Yeah.
Do you know what Janowitz?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right across the street from there. So,
Huh.
so that's nice. I actually commented today. I took a hike with a friend to show him the Janowitz's property. He's been in Shutesbury 7 years and never knew about it, or knew about it but never explored it. So
Has that been taken over by the town or by Kestrel or something now? Or?
Kestrel.
Yes, yeah.
Good.
And they're maintaining it. They've done a lot.
Yeah.
They're trimming the paths. They're putting new boardwalks in, except for one end because of the amount of rain. The Ames Pond was about 8-9 inches higher than it was normally is. So the boardwalk is about 7-8 inches underwater in one section.
How's the dam look?
Dam looks really good, and they've got a good overflow thing that's been working. So they're very productive beavers in that area. So someone's keeping up with that because the overflow works flows. But the dam looks real good, and the paths are being well marked now, and they're bushwhacking them and doing a whole bunch of other things.
Huh, that's great.
And there
Leslie
was- and we-
Bracebridge. Go ahead.
Yeah. We took a walk all the way up to the top to Temenos, and all the ice, most of the ice was gone, so didn't have to use the ice cleats.
Yeah, Leslie Bracebridge took me on a tour up there a couple of years ago, and we went all the way from the Monk's Cave thing on Wendell up down, all the way up to the top of the mountain where you could see Greylock and everything.
Yep.
And then out to Temenos, which I had never been to before, which was cool.
Yeah,
Kind of an interesting place.
I've been in there, and when there's deep snow and there's still people in those little cabins with their wood stoves keeping warm, and
Yeah. It reminded me of being on retreat when I was a kid. All these people were on retreat up there. They just walking around quietly, you know.
yep, and it's an interesting little area. And the Monk's Cave, I probably walked by it a dozen times until I forget the woman's name, who's the one of the librarian helps, who was overseer at Temenos. I met her on a trail one day in the middle of the snowstorm, and she said, "No, if you just follow that pole, you'll see it." I looked up; it was there all along. So that was kind of fun for the first time. And I haven't found Ames A and B, the caves on the other hill in Ames, off of Janison. There's two more. A friend
really?
has found them. Yeah, there's two more. One's usually filled with water this time of year, but I don't think you can get in one of them. But they're the same thing. So archaeologically, it's pretty neat that we have them in this area.
It is.
Colonial or Native American storage.
Nobody
units,
really knows what exactly they are, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's either colonial storage or Native American storage or something. It wasn't monks, and it wasn't someone from the Celestials that came down.
Oh, really? Wasn't aliens?
No.
Well, I
It's
like that.
consistent.
The site of the hotel is interesting too, with the way they would kind of get this sulfurous water or mineral water out of there. People loved their mineral water in those days when they had the hotel at Mineral Mountain.
Is that what it was? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that everybody would come up to places that had mineral water. They really liked the idea of purification. And that meant you drink the mineral water and you get void your bowels, you know. And
Yep.
that was supposed to be what we were looking for, you know. If you've ever been up to Saratoga Springs, a lot of them are very sulfurous springs.
I went to Skidmore. I was up there almost 5 years, and there's a couple of them that you drive by, you smell them.
Yeah, I know, and you have to go to the toilet.
And they're literally, there's two. The most sulfur one, I think, is right downtown.
Yeah,
It's not out at
in
the park.
Common, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was up there with a friend. She was at a crafts fair, and me and my buddy Billy were walking around, and we were just trying the different water, and I could smell the sulfurous water at that
Here he
particular
comes.
one. Here he is.
Awesome. Hey, Steve.
All right, hi, Steve. So we have a quorum, and we can call
Do a
meeting to
roll
order.
call? Do we have to do a roll call, or just a roll call when we vote?
No, when we vote, we don't have to do a roll call to call the meeting to order, which we've now done. So the first thing we'll do is look at those minutes from 11:23 that you have, Frank.
Yep.
Does everybody have a copy of the minutes, or do we need to put them on the screen? Or this is the same minutes we voted to approve
Yep.
on 12/22. So can we just vote to approve them again, and this time do it with our voice?
Good with me.
Yeah, I think that works. We all read them and we all approved them.
So I motioned we approve the minutes.
I second.
Okay, so any commentary on that, or any? Then we'll, okay, if not, then we'll have a roll call vote by alphabetical order, if we can do that. I think that puts me first. Bob Groves, aye. Again, you're second.
Oh, Frank McGinn, aye.
Hey, Bob, I'm
Steve.
sorry to interrupt, but I'm pretty sure you're supposed to have a roll call vote to open and close the meeting.
Well,
Is that right, Dan?
that's
No.
never happened at the finance committee meeting.
We do it at the end of the meeting.
not to,
not at the beginning.
not to call it to order.
I'm just trying to be careful because of what happened.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just said, the other committees that I'm on, we never do that, so.
Yeah,
Well, we
no, I'm
did
pretty
close
familiar
the
with
meeting.
the new rules related to doing things remotely, and there is nothing about opening the meeting, and the chair still has the ability to close the meeting when there's nothing else without a vote.
Okay, good.
So now,
So,
we didn't have to complete the vote here. I
right,
think
let's complete the vote.
Steve Sullivan was next to vote.
I just checked with Grace and she said, generally speaking, you should have a roll call vote to open and close the meeting.
Okay, well, I'm going to object to that. We'll look into this. We'll have a roll call vote to open the meeting, and then I'm going to object to that, Becky, because I've been
Okay,
in a lot of meetings, and we have never done that. Never
okay.
did it.
I'm just trying to be overcautious because of the
Yeah.
other, and that's fine.
Well, maybe we should be overcautious at the finance committee meeting, at the school committee meeting, at the four-town meeting, and the
Well,
rest
I
of it.
know we do it to close the meeting.
Then this is not closing the meeting, so what are we doing here?
I'm not trying to upset you. I'm trying to save you trouble.
mhm.
I just texted Grace to check.
Well,
I was
can
on
say-
the zoning board, listening to the zoning board recently about the height requirements. I've been on a couple of those meetings. I don't remember them doing a roll call to start the meeting, but I remember them
Okay,
all being
I was
confused
uncertain
about
if
the
it was-
roll call of meetings and everything else.
Yeah.
They debated what thing, I think.
Yeah, nobody ever votes to open a meeting.
okay. I was uncertain about that one, but closing for sure. I know they did.
Oh, yeah.
no, so where we were at was asking Steve to vote.
Sullivan,
On the
aye.
meeting.
Okay, then Bill.
Yep, Bill Wells, aye.
Okay, so the motion passes to approve the minutes. The next thing I want to bring up that's on our agenda is that we had a meeting at 12:22, and I thought that we voted to ask the select board to approve Mike Vinsky as a member of our committee. So I want to have a vote on that after any discussion. Is there a motion to have a vote on that, to ask the select board to approve Mike Vinsky as a member of our committee?
I'll vote to, Frank McGinn will vote to motion to accept Mike.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on that?
No,
All right. Well, if there's no discussion, then I'll call the question. So Bob Groves will vote aye on that.
Frank McGinn will vote aye on that.
Sullivan, no.
Bill Wells, aye.
Motion passes 3-1. Okay, now, the other thing we had on our agenda was to discuss our impressions from our tour on I think it was the 22nd of January. We went around to some of the buildings in town. And I sent everyone a copy of what I recalled, what I noted during that thing. Is there, did everybody get that?
Yep.
Yep.
Does everybody
You want
have
me to
any?
Put it on screen, Bob.
Could you do that, Becky? Great. Thanks.
Sure.
Lovely.
Okay, good.
Steve, you'll note, have you seen this, Steve? You looked at it?
No, I hadn't seen it, but I was pulling it up on the computer
Oh,
now.
good, because there's a lot, most of what we wrote, what we observed was at the school. So it'd be interesting to hear what your reaction to that, your comments on that. We'll start with the town hall. Becky, this is something we've talked about in the past. But one thing that I could see and that we all, I think, agreed was an issue was the grading problems that I think we need to address for the long-term health and well-being of the building. And that's the ground is, well, depending on which way I ought to look at it, the ground is too close to the sills or the sills are too close to the ground. It doesn't have good positive drainage away from the perimeter of the building to the, away from the building. And it also has some issues with drainage coming from the level above by the street at the stone walls where there's eroded dirt that's coming through the wall and then collecting against the wall, the wood wall of the building. We've seen this before. We've seen it happen again. That all those things together are contributing to the issues that we have with dampness in the building, in my opinion. I think that's what we observed. So again, we're going to have to do a study on this to see what can be done, how that issue can be addressed. But that's one of the issues that we saw. The retaining walls are part of that. The fences on top of the retaining walls have failed. I don't know how they were fastened to those stones, but whatever happened there, you've seen it, Becky, I'm sure. They're not standing up anymore. So they got to be looked at. They got to be either removed or repaired or something replaced. So that's the second issue. The third one, we talked about this a long time ago, and I think it's still something we have to look at and we have to address, which is that there's a manhole that over the well in the building, and it's just a flat manhole. Water comes in there, and it doesn't help the moisture issue in the building to have that. So I think what we discussed in the past was to put some kind of cover, a little tin roofing or something that could be hinged in some manner so that it would provide a way to redirect the water around the manhole and reduce the amount of water that gets in the building into the cellar. Also, it would still allow access for, I guess, we need it there because if they ever pull the pump, they need it, right? Is that why it's there? Becky?
I'm sorry, I'm trying, are you talking about the pump at the front of the building?
If you're looking at the front of the building on the left.
On
which
the
is
left,
east,
okay. I was
there's
just
a
trying to
manhole there.
remember. Yeah,
And
and that goes down to the well house where the
it
pump.
goes to the well, yeah. And I think the reason it's there is so that they can pull the pump, right?
Yeah, because they had to do that. Well, the pump.
We need to maintain, we have to keep it.
In the middle of no, that manhole only goes into the cement structure.
It's right over the
They-
pump though.
And they pulled the pump, they dug up the yard. There was a big hole in the middle, about 10 feet from there in the middle of the yard, and they had to replace the pump about 10 years ago. Buzzy did it.
Wow, well, I think my recollections might be mistaken because I thought the pump was directly under that manhole. So let's look at that and figure out what the hell's going on, because if the manhole doesn't need to be there, we could seal it from above. I think now that town hall is open, one of us or all of us can go and look at that.
Yeah, and I could be wrong, but that's my recollection.
Okay, the town hall clerk window replacement has to be rebooted so that we can get that done in the near future. And also Becky's chimney is leaking again, and it leaked in the torrent that we had the other day. And I still believe, and this is something we haven't done, it was on our list of things to do. The flashing was replaced. There was a cap put on the masonry cap was repaired. There was a galvanized steel roof cap put on top of the chimney, and it still leaks. So I think it needs to be sealed, and I believe that will solve the issue. So I don't know if anybody knows a good mason that can go up there and spray that with silicone. Paul Corpita was the guy I used, but he's apparently retired now. When I called him, he did not answer my phone call, so I might try him again, see if one of his guys is still running the outfit for him. I don't know.
Well, I heard he was doing some work for people, but not like he did before.
I
So he
see.
may not be 100% retired.
Bob, I think the police reported that the rain was coming in horizontally the night my chimney was leaking. And I
Right.
was talking, because they were out in the weather more than I was. And I think that's part of the issue, because the cap can't work because it's coming in when it's coming in sideways.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It's also true that when you have bricks that are not sealed, that a driving rain will drive the rain right through the bricks. So that can also
Okay.
be what's happening. So I think that we need to eliminate that by sealing the bricks. That
Okay,
I've seen that a couple times in the past in my own case. So we definitely need to seal it no matter what, and then we'll see if that helps. It's not expensive. It should be something we can get done. So I'll try Corpeter again. I don't know if do you know Corpeter, Bill, or did you see him at all?
He only did work on my chimney once here, just before he retired. And that's the only experience I've ever had with him.
All right, well, I mean, welcome to get ideas of other masons. I don't know any other masons off the top of my head, but
I don't know, he might be able to, I
it
don't know.
doesn't
if
even
I-
have to be a mason, really. It could be a person just go up on the roof. So maybe I'll ask them, Hayden, if they'll do it for us.
Yeah,
Because it don't have to be a mason to spray silicone sealer on a chimney, you know.
But it would be nice to have a mason to look at it to see if any of the joints have cracked, and that's where they need to be silicone, tube silicone. Because that happened on my roof up here, right? There were just settling cracks that had opened up. And if you don't fill those with silicone,
Well-
it was right at where the cement was hitting the brick, and it just over time opened up. So we had to put more silicone up there.
Yeah, well, Hayden did redo the flashings and repoint the
Okay.
flashings. So I'm assuming, you know, those guys are really good. So I'm assuming they did a good job at that. We eliminated that as an issue. So, but if it gets behind the flashing, there's nothing you can do either by coming in through the cap or
Right.
driving through the brick. So guide board is something that's going to be, it's out to bid. They asked me to bid on it to replace the guide board, to repair the guide board. I don't know, other people have probably bid on it too. The old town hall, we have to get, again, we want to reboot that thing and see if we can get some people to bid on that this spring. Because, you know, last year it was hard to get bidders on anything. The Hearst House, we observed that the paint is not peeling exactly, but it's not perfect. It looks like, I would say it doesn't really have to be done this year. I don't know what you guys think, but certainly next year, I think it might need a paint job.
Yep.
It might even need a little touch up this year. I don't know if that's worth it, but oh no, I'm pretty good shape, except that Phil was never completed there. And I don't know if we could ask the highway department to help us with that. Steve?
We did some work. We filled in around the front of it a little bit, and we had done some around the downhill side, and then we seeded it. I don't know if it needs more.
Yeah, but you can see the foundation, we have a nice stone foundation there. And then underneath it is concrete. And I think our original plan was to fill up to the concrete, the top of the concrete, so that it would look nice. And then also it gives the more frost protection, of course. And then put soil and seed on that. The reason we didn't do it originally, if I remember right, is there was going to be some tree work done there. The tree work has been done now for a while. So I think that might have been part of the reason we left it that way. But it does need to be addressed. And I don't know if the town could do it, but maybe you could bring it up with Tim. I don't know. Do you think you could?
Yeah, I'll do that, because all we did was we just leveled it out or smoothed it out and let it pitch away from the building. We didn't add more material to cover the concrete, but I'm sure we could.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
that'd be great. That'd be great. The West Schoolhouse, we observed that there's a lot of splatter on the stone at the entry that is causing some difficulty, some problems with the doorway. It seemed like gutter should be at least put over that doorway, but why not have a gutter going the whole length of the west side, the east side of the building? And actually, it wouldn't be a bad idea to do the other side of the building, because there's not good positive drainage there either because of the way the land is shaped. So I think maybe we'll see if somebody, maybe one of us members can go and talk to the historical commission. They're in charge of that building, and see if they want to pay, they have funds to pay for gutters. If not, I would have to wait. Maybe we could just do it out of our funds. What do you think about that, Becky?
I don't remember exactly how much we have left. I guess it depends on cost. If historical has funds, that would be great. I know they have some money.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be good for the building it'll be good for the building's health and longevity to have at least a small section of gutter over that door, you know? But I think it would be great.
I'll reach
better
out,
both.
Bob.
What's that?
I'll reach
We
out.
reach out to the historical?
Yeah, and I'll just bring up what we said, what we did, and we recommend, and see if they have funds for that, and we'll go from there. Because it does need it, especially all that, with all that work that was done on the front doors. You can see how it's going to continue to splash water
Oh,
up.
great, that'd be excellent. Now, on the school, the first thing we did was looked at sidewalks, which we've heard a lot about on the finance committee, and the sidewalks look perfect to me. They don't look like there's been any heaving. I had Becky look at them the day we were there, and I don't recall that she said it. She could find it.
I saw areas where there were tripping hazards and irregular connection between the two.
Where did you see that?
Around the front area.
Well, okay, I'd like to go down there with you because I asked you that day to point out the areas that were heaved so that I could see them, and you didn't do that. So,
Yeah, I didn't see any either.
and Dan Hayes, is he still here? Can you comment on
Yes.
that, Dan?
Yeah, I'm here.
I was just going to ask you to comment on the sidewalks and the condition of the sidewalks.
Yeah, I walked them several times. I haven't seen any issues since they were repaired a couple of years ago. The only area that sounds like it was a concern, because I did ask this at a school committee meeting, Steve was there as well, I believe. Jackie mentioned something about where the pavement abuts up in the front area near where the sidewalk meets. But it sounded like that was more of an issue with the pavement. Do you remember that, Steve?
Steve, you're muted, Steve.
I'm not muted anymore. Okay. So the sidewalks, yes. Since January, the sidewalk has started to heave by the flagpole again. There are a couple of sections that are either up or down. And that what Dan is talking about is the pavement has failed on the edge of the curbing so that the concrete that's used to set the curbing in place is now coming through the blacktop. And the other spot where the sidewalk has totally failed is where a former custodian took it upon himself to lay a pad where the bike rack used to be. He did it with bags and it dried too fast. And now the ice melter that the custodians are using is literally melting it away. So after the snow and it starts to melt, you can take your finger and it's almost like pudding. So that whole section that the custodian poured is going to have to be removed as soon as we can because it is not safe.
And I think everyone saw that. I pointed it out to you guys.
Right. Again, I just want to get to the heart of this issue because there's been a lot of grief. I'll just admit, I was one of the people behind doing a partial replacing the squares that were cracked, broken, or heaved, and not replacing the whole sidewalk. When that proposal was made, they never contemplated dealing with the Walter Tirati Memorial State Park area, whatever it's called. That wasn't part of the deal. That certainly is a problem. It's going to be a problem for the building. It's probably should be pulled up, removed, and replaced with something more porous that drains because there's too much moisture collecting there, and I can see that. But that's not part of the issue that we were confronted with, which was that we were cheap, that we were not willing to do the job right, that proposing to replace the squares that were heaved and leave the good ones that were intact was a bad idea. And I utterly reject that. I'll be happy to go down there with you, Steve, and you show me where those things are a hazard to people. I'd be happy to learn that I'm wrong.
I will join Steve.
I was there with you, Becky, and you couldn't show me. So
Steve, Bob, I walked around and I showed you the different areas in front of the building, especially where the ramp comes in. And there's a lot of, I was showing you where my foot was catching, and I'm sorry. I'm happy to do it again.
Okay.
better.
One
to-
one thing we did talk about though is, and it's brought up, Steve brought it up, and it's just the frost heaves, and it happens this time of year that you get that, everything settling. And we should know where that is, but we talked about, we got to get the water away from there. Once that water is away from there and that roof is fixed, a lot of this will probably go away. And I was recently somewhere, and I don't remember what city I was in, and when they had subtle frost heaves, they used just a carbide grinder, and they took that corner where the frost came up and put that 45-degree angle so you didn't hit it anymore. And I was looking at it, and they just did a bunch of those. It was probably a very quick fix for someone to do. But if it is frosting now, it makes sense because we've had the weather go up and down so much. And the problem is the water coming off the roof just sits there and doesn't go anywhere and absorbs, and that's where the frost heaves. So the two issues I thought it was getting the water, fixing the water problem, which they're working on with a new roof or whatever. And then if there are frost heaves on a couple of them, take that corner off, that's up a half an inch. And that's what I saw in the city. And I wish I took a picture of it. And they just take a carbide or diamond grinder and then just take that edge off, and it's done. And it's no problem because it levels it out and there's nothing to trip on anymore. But I'll be around after next week. I'm away next week. I'll go look at them with, because the frost will, next week's gonna be very cold, so that we'll maintain it. And we can mark which ones are, but I think that would be a short term fixing.
I know this is your meeting, but I wonder if I could offer a suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
Our Director of Finance and Operations, I think one of the things that she is doing is to sort of codify what's going on, like the leaks on the roof or issues of what needs to be fixed by just taking a picture. A picture really gives you a lot of information and something you can refer back to. You don't have to worry about memories as to which was the sidewalk that was heaving, which side of the sidewalk. So, maybe just taking a picture when you see something. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. I just want to make one other point, which is I noted in my description here, that we did have a problem with the gym roof, as we all know. And part of the way that we mitigated that problem was to put new exits in the gutter that's over the shed roof, adjacent to the loading area where the buses stop. And that caused a lot of roof water from the gym and from that shed roof to go directly on the sidewalk below. That totally drenched that area in a way that was historically pretty new and pretty big. And that added to the moisture that's underneath those sidewalks. So I didn't see any heaving that was substantial in those sidewalks that were replaced. And I'll go back and happily look at it and be corrected if I'm wrong. But if there is any heaving, it was because of that. I would blame it on that particular detail, which we did in order to prevent, to slow down or prevent or mitigate the gym roof leak. That was 2 winters ago, at least, I would say, right, Becky?
4, I think 4.
4. So the sidewalk, since it's been repaired, has been subjected to some kind of gross soaking. And also, I don't know what the janitors use for de-icing. Do they use calcium chloride? Do they use salt? Do they use, what material do they use? You know, Steve?
It's gonna be the calcium chloride, magnesium. It's one of those blue and salt enhanced ice melters. I'm not sure what one it is. But they don't use salt and sand because that just tracks into the school.
Yeah, well, it also is very, very corrosive to cement, to concrete. So I mean, we should check on that. But
whatever they're using is definitely concrete safe, except for that one pad.
yeah,
Probably
and that,
magnesium chloride. Is the magnesium safer than the calcium?
right. The other thing is the area with the flagpole, Steve, wasn't part of the sidewalk replacement project at all. That's inside the sidewalk. If I'm not mistaken, it's adjacent to the building there, right?
I was
It originally was.
Pardon me?
that I was under the impression that the sidewalk replacement was all the sidewalks from the gym kitchen entrance all the way around to the front door and then around to the handicap access getting you to the lower parking lot.
That
And
was the
I
original.
think, Bob, that I'm one of the people that was actually pissed that I thought that the $42,000 was nuts. But when that guy came in with a figure and we had set aside the 42,000, I thought that we should have completed the whole project because he was going to give us a super price to do the whole thing. So I'm one of those people that was mad that that went on. I don't know who else is talking about it, but I haven't talked about it for a while, but I'm on that team.
You were mad for what reason? I'm not clear on what you said.
That when we got that second bid from the person that actually, the contractor who did the job, he was going to do the entire walk for way less than we had set aside. So I was one of the people that was mad that it didn't happen.
I know that. But I'm just asking, what my impression was that the sidewalk, which is the squares that were done, including what you described, to around the corner of the west end of the building, right there, the sidewalk going to the main entrance, the sidewalk, the ramp, the sidewalk going all the way down to the other end of the building, to the east, and then around the corner to the, as far as the entrance to the cafeteria. That was the extent of what was being contemplated. Isn't that true?
Yeah, everything that's concrete and not the blacktop. That's what I thought it was.
I'd have to look back into and see if there's any records of what was the specs for the thing, but it wasn't the concrete across the way where the school bus island is. It wasn't, there are a lot of areas that were concrete that were not going to be touched, that were not bid on.
No,
So,
yeah, I didn't think it was the concrete. I thought it was just what was around the school itself and not the island or any of that kind of thing. But I do agree, though, that once the roof is done and the drainage is hooked up, that the heaving problem will disappear.
yeah, so we got to get the roof done, then we can address this other issue because it would be, and I don't think we should be fussing about it. But anyway, that's what I observed. And I'll be happy to go back down there with Becky and Steve and Frank and whoever else wants
Yep.
to join us to have a look at it and see if we can all agree on what we're looking at.
Sounds
And
great.
take,
Thank you,
and
Bob.
take
Can we get a-
pictures.
Can we scroll to the next page, Becky?
Yeah.
The other thing we observed, and this is, people should comment on this. I don't know whatever happened to my formatting here, but finished grade is high around the whole, well, not the whole building because the west end is really good. But on the east end and the south end, and to some degree, you can't really deal with the north, but mainly the east and the south sides of the building, the earth is quite close to the sills. And that is contributing factor to some of the issues we're having with rot and also the health of the building. So because of all the fixed elements in the landscape, like sidewalks, for example, it's hard to change grade around a building that has fixed things like trees and sidewalks and other things which create grade. I think that in some places, the grade can be altered a little bit, like, for example, the concrete area, the pitted concrete area that you're talking about. I think that could be ripped up and maybe we could put a little pitch there, or at least lower the earth there. I think what we need to contemplate here is the idea of putting drain tiles in some of those areas and removing the water that's coming off the roof to the gutters. Gutters will be replaced when we do the roof job, I presume. And there'll be water coming off those valleys. And instead of it just being poured into those corners and splattering around, it could be carried away into off to the west or to the storm drain system or something. That would have to be designed, but that'd be one way to lower the grade of where we can and repair the gutters and put in some vehicle, some vessel to carry the water, the gutter water away. I think that's the only thing that occurred to me. Anybody else have any? And also there have been some plants that, are close, and I know that that's really a cool thing for the kids to do. So I'm just raising the issue. I don't know what the right approach would be there, but as a carpenter lifelong, I've always been fighting with people putting plants all over the place, planting trees next to their houses and stuff because it rots wood. But maybe we could find a way to accommodate the school garden and maybe put some little trellises or things to keep the plants create a little space between the plant and the building or something. Something we could talk about and maybe think about. But that's certainly plants, gutter water, gutter splattering, plants are all contributing to some of the rot problems that we've observed. So,
And one thing, Bob, I also noticed, I showed Becky, we knocked down a bunch of the gutters. The gutters that are in the drain system itself to go away from the system were full of ice or blocked. So that's why the water was coming off the roof on the south side. And you could knock and hear how solid ice or leaves or something. So they weren't draining, going through the draining system, and they were just backing up and cascading over. In those areas, there's 2 or 3 gutters that next time, Dan, I'll take a picture and label them. They look like they're clogged because you could just they were solid at the bottom. You knock on them and you could just feel that they were just full of ice or something. So the system wasn't working properly in that back wall either. The south wall, yeah.
Yep, that was true in a few of the gutters. So I think what it suggested to me was that there has to be a maintenance program for the new gutters so they could be cleaned a couple times a year. I don't know who'd be responsible for that, but it's a recommendation that gutter maintenance should be part of routine maintenance for the building.
The downspout of the downspout, specifically the downspouts.
Yeah, the gutters
where they go into
have to be cleaned out every year so that they don't get stuffed up.
So that's gonna have to be a highway department or fire department thing, because I've spoken to the custodian about this, and our custodian doesn't own any ladders more than step ladders on purpose because he doesn't like heights and will not get on a ladder. So it's gonna have to be either the fire department or the highway department that does that. And as far as the grades go, you're right, Bob. That drove me crazy walking around that school when I was working as the after-school director, as a former landscaper, seeing that the grade was the same, it was level from the building out to the sidewalk. And the sidewalks are so high, there's no way to lower the grades to do anything unless we were actually gonna dig around, make beds of stone or something that it would drain. Because you're absolutely right, there's nowhere for the water to go.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but the architect screwed that one up by setting the building too low. But there it is. We have to deal with it and we have to try to mitigate it. And I think long-term, we maybe should try to help school come up with a plan to do that. It's going to be difficult because there's so much there's so many fixed elements in the landscape, but a couple ideas that we should maybe tossing around. When we have disruptive work done on the site, when there's a paving and other things being done, and there's an opportunity, we should never miss that opportunity to address this drainage issue when we can. So if we say replace the sidewalk, why not lower it? If we can at that time. So something to keep in mind and something to look at and maybe study a little bit. But I think we'll do the gutters. I think putting some drain tiles in there would be a really good idea along the south wall, maybe carrying it from the south wall to the west, and on the east end, maybe into the storm drain system. I don't know. Something to look at, to study, and to try to evaluate more. And I think that the carpentry repairs should be done somehow in a chronological, sensible way, like when this drainage issue is approached. I think that maybe carpentry repairs and drain tiles could be done at the same time. And something that we should be thinking about is how to schedule that, how to organize that chronologically, because I don't know if we want to replace the cornices before the roof's done. I think our priority will be the roof. And then we got to put in some drain tiles, maybe afterwards, and do the carpentry repairs, and then finally the paint.
Mhm.
Does that make sense, or does somebody see it differently? Or
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So this kind of gets to the crux of why I'm here, and it's really about process. What you've laid out is very logical. It makes a lot of sense. It's very informative. I think it's great. So my question is, okay, for example, some of the carpentry repairs. So what happens with that? So what I imagine happening is the buildings committee looks at it together or as a group. You come up with some recommendations of what needs to be done. And perhaps from those recommendations, you say, this is the one that we are advocating for. And then you get the bids on whatever needs to be done, because you mentioned painting. So you're right, like maybe the building needs to be painted. But if there's carpentry that has to be done with it, I mean, you as the buildings committee, I think are going to be much more adept at figuring out what needs to be done to fix and keep the building in good repair, as opposed to anyone on the school committee, except for maybe Steve and or the administration. So I guess maybe the next time you have a meeting, we could put on the agenda, and I'd be happy to come, which is really about the process. So what happens with that? So for example, just earlier tonight, we were talking about the sidewalks. So it seems like there's confusion as to what was decided and then what was done. It just seems like that shouldn't really happen. Like, so I'm not criticizing you as a group, but for me as a school committee member, I'm trying to figure out, how do we get things done? How do we fix something? So is there money within our budget? You know, for example, if it's something simple and we need to fix a leaky faucet, we pay for a plumber to come in to fix the faucet. But if it's something like we need to put new replacement siding because it's rotted, well, we don't know who to call. You guys do, you know, it needs to be done. But evidently, I would say as a group, you need to then come up with, you know, all of the options. Here's your recommendation. And then once it's decided what you're doing, how does it get ushered through to make sure that those, whatever the decision was, how does that get accomplished?
Yep. Becky wants to say something. Go ahead.
Maybe you can hear me. So I think, Dan, to speak to process, the confusion, the way I see what happened with the sidewalks was about timing. So the project was proposed to repair the sidewalks. It was presented at town meeting. Town meeting approved it, and what was presented and approved at town meeting was to redo the full sidewalk. And then when it went out to bid and the building committee was talking about it more, I think it was even Jim Hemingway, who's not on the building committee, but he went and did a detailed analysis of what he thought were older tiles, sidewalk tiles that definitely had to be replaced, and the ones he thought were fine. And then he brought that to the building committee, and then the building committee decided to go out to bid officially for a repair of only the part that was deemed not as in good shape compared. So it was a change from town meeting. And I think that's why there's been so much pushback, because what was approved at town meeting was to do the complete sidewalk. And then money was saved, but there was a number of people that in the school community, afterwards when people were tripping and then the coloration was not consistent, people felt it didn't look as good as it would have if it was consistent. So I think as far as process, it's important for the town meeting votes to be honored. And if a change is made, there needs to be some kind of process involving the school committee and the school, especially if the scope of the project is changed.
Mhm. So can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So again, I imagine that the buildings committee would have been involved in the initial phases of that process to make the recommendation of what needed to be done with the sidewalks. Did that happen?
This is another point of contention. Is it okay if I answer? Or do you want to go on?
Yeah, no, and again,
Okay.
I don't want to take up your time, and I'm not being a pain in the ass. I'm just trying to figure out how can we move forward in a way that we
I
have a
think-
process and a system so that we don't get angry with each other, so that things get done, so that there's no pointing fingers. We're all here for the same thing. We volunteer. We love our town. We want to do things efficiently and effectively, and we don't want the roof to leak and all of that. So that's why I'm here. I'm not being an asshole.
Yeah. No, I know you're not, Dan. I think part of I don't think the building committee was originally involved. And I think that was true because it was the same year we went out for paving. And I went out to get bids. Just, I think the school did too. The school participated and went out. There's a distinction between a horizontal project and a vertical project. Horizontal projects are traditionally the purview of the highway department because they do the paving, they do, and then horizontal projects are more the purview of a building committee because of the vertical nature of those structures. So that was another point of confusion, and I'm sure Bob will have a different viewpoint, so.
Yeah, let me
Thank
just say, we were not consulted, the building committee wasn't consulted about that. And this idea, this distinction between horizontal and vertical projects doesn't make a bit of sense to me. After all, there's a lot of things in the school, like the floors and the roof are horizontal. So this was something that was definitely right in the wheelhouse of the building committee, but they were not consulted for whatever reasons. Can't read people's minds. This came before the finance committee as part of the budget, as part of a recommendation. And my recollection, which is certainly not perfect, but I'm just going on that here. I don't have any other records or anything in front of me, but we looked at the thing, me and Jim Hemingway from the finance committee, and I looked at it and I said, there's a lot of these tiles that are in excellent condition. They shouldn't have to be replaced and dug up. Talked to various people in the business, and we came up with an idea that we could do this job for less money and still do a really good job that would be more than adequate for the school. And I'm always interested in saving the town money when I can. The idea that it would be a different color did not seem to be a deal breaker at all to me. The idea that we spent less money that was appropriated at town meeting was also not an issue. We do that all the time. There was several articles, and we had an article, and Becky, you know this, we have a fund called called Title 30 or Fund 30, where money that's been unspent on different projects that were financed by town meeting articles could be returned to the town. It's commonplace. So
Bob, the
let me just finish,
difference
please,
was-
Becky, before you interrupt me.
Sorry.
This is something that we addressed in a logical and in kind of a systematic way. And we made a recommendation in good faith, and people were mad at us. Well, I'm sorry, but that was done in the interest of the town, and I don't feel there was anything wrong with it, and I still don't think it was a mistake. Now, the issue that we raised about water going on the sidewalks, that's disturbing to me, and that's upsetting. But I don't see that it's caused significant heaving in the structures. So let's go down and look at them, and we'll just look at them together, as we said.
So moving forward, I'm wondering if we could put on the agenda, just really to hone in on what the process is so that we don't have to rehash things again.
Okay, I agree. That's what we'll do, Dan. We'll put it on our agenda in a future meeting.
And I'll forward this to you, share it with the school committee. I really appreciate your time and everybody's dedication to the town, and I really appreciate everything you do for the school, all of you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Dan.
Dan.
I'll be
Becky,
No, I just wanted to say that what change, yes. Fund 30 has balances of expenditures on projects when we can come in under budget. But it wasn't about that. The issue was the scope of the work that was proposed at town meeting was not followed through with. That is more, that is a different type of change, and it's not just about having a balance left. And that's where I heard people's complaints centered around. Thank you, Dan. And I
okay.
know that Steve wanted to speak too.
Oh, Steve, did you have your hand up?
He did throughout.
I did, but I took it down. So my questions, we can be done with the sidewalks, because yes, I was on the team that we voted for replacing the whole thing at town meeting, and we didn't do it, so I got mad. But anyway, so I have two questions. How come if we're talking about the sidewalks, we didn't put the parking lot on here? And because that has to be replaced, it can't be overlaid. It's got to be removed, ground up and redone. But my question about the school, the siding is there any way that, because Jackie has mentioned this to me and I agree with her, is that the school is starting to look like an eyesore. And is there any way that either the highway department or volunteers could pressure wash the school and it would brighten it up at all? Or is that something that wouldn't make any difference?
And Steve, I think that if I may answer that, I think the school needs a paint job now. It's been about 8 years, I think, right? Which is,
8 years, oh no, it wasn't that around 2007 or 8?
yeah, it's overdue for a paint job, but we're waiting for the
Oh,
roof.
it was 2011, I think.
Yeah, so, okay, so 10 years is a hell of a long time between paint jobs in this day and age. So we got to get the roof done before that paint job, and then it definitely needs it, and it will brighten up the building beautifully. Let fresh coat of paint on it. Do the
Well,
carpet.
that's why I'm asking, because I agree with you that we don't want to do all of the replacing of any rotted wood. I mean, it would be nice if we could, but I agree, but we're 2 to 3 years out minimum with that gym, with the rest of the roof. And that's why I'm asking if power washing it would make any difference in cleaning it up, getting the mildew off, so that at least the school looked decent to somebody who pulls into the parking lot and doesn't have to say, whoa, why does that school look like it's falling apart?
Well, I hope you're wrong about 2 to 3 years out. You know, we want, I think we on the the building committee would like to, I don't know if the rest of you feel this way, but I'd like to see that roof done ASAP. And we've been talking, Becky and I have been talking about it. We've been talking about it, finance committee, capital planning is going to be talking about hiring an engineer. We want to get this done right now. We're tired of waiting for the state to come up with the money. And so we're going to look into a plan B, which we talked about, I don't know, 5 years ago at least. And I think that we'd like to, implement plan B this year if we don't get state money. So then we can just go forward and pay for this thing and get it done. We can't wait on this thing for 2 or 3 years, Steve. I don't think it's a good idea to do that.
Oh, I don't want to wait at all, but what I'm saying is that the school community feels that the school is looking drab, and I'm asking if pressure washing it would get rid of the mildew and make it at least a little bit brighter or fresher than it does now.
I think if we used low pressure wash that wouldn't drive the paint off the building, it might.
Yeah, that's what's
might
going to
be
happen
useful.
when you pressure wash it.
It would have to be very low pressure because that's delicate right now. It's old paint.
Well,
All
low
right.
pressure with some type of chlorine in it to kill the mildew, to
Yeah.
clean the mildew. Very low hand pump pressure. That might do it.
Yeah, it would have to be hand washed. It wouldn't. I don't think a pressure wash is really advisable in general because it drives moisture into the building, and also it's delicate now because it's old paint. I think that somebody have to scrub it with a brush and pole and a brush. And what walls are you talking about on the north side there?
Yeah, I mean, even on the front of the building, there's some mildew.
Yeah.
But that's what I wanted to know. So the best would be chlorine or some Clorox or something in a bucket and a brush and not a pressure washer.
And then
Or-
rinse
or
it
those-
really, really well.
That's
One of
the
those, the garden pumps, Steve, the whole garden pump thing. If you had one of those garden pumps, just to spray it first with the bleach solution and try it and try it in an area and do a 50-50, do a week bleach solution, spray that in an area, let it set so many minutes, maybe hose it down after. That might get rid of a lot of the mold. The pressure wash will blow everything out, but just one of those hand garden sprays and do a whole, just do a section that's off to the side where people don't look first, and that should get rid of a lot of the mold issues. Just a light bleach solution, I think that'd be the best thing. And you can add some ivory soap in there too. That will kill anything coming back. A light ivory soap bleach solution, and spray it and see how it does. It might need a small brush, but I think that'd be the best solution than power wash. And that could be done with the custodial staff or the department, the highway department,
But you have to rinse it after that. You can't leave bleach on the building. You have to rinse it off.
right. You have to rinse
Don't
it off.
Rinse it off. The paint will never stick to it.
Mhm.
All right, so thank you for answering that. Cause so no pressure and a brush. Thank
And
you.
rinse
And
with a
rinse.
garden hose,
And
with a garden
hose
hose.
it off. Yeah, okay, thank you.
You can use a pressure washer to apply the bleach and soap. When you're using a pressure washer to apply that, that's under low pressure coming out of the nozzle. It
Yeah.
wouldn't tear any paint off the building. And at least you could get a large area of stuff treated. I do my house all the time this way. And you let the bleach stay on there for 5 or 10 minutes, and then you can rinse it off, and most of it will come off without scrubbing it.
Okay.
Wow. So we've had a lot to talk about. I want to schedule another meeting now, or do you want to talk about something else tonight? The agenda's used up.
We've talked a lot tonight, and I think we'll move on to another, follow up in the next meeting. Try to schedule a meeting for a month from today.
Let's see what we have for a date today. Today is February 24th. Well, do you want to wait for a month, or do you want to, we could meet sooner if something comes up. Do you want to say the 24th of March? Or the 23rd of March, which is Wednesday, which is our traditional day?
Yep.
Is Wednesday a good day, Becky?
Yeah.
Okay, 23rd of March, then we're going to say tentatively 6 o'clock, okay, guys?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting. Anybody second that?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Bob Grove says aye.
Thank you.
Frank McGinn says aye.
Sullivan, aye.
Wells, aye.
That motion passes.
Beautiful.
Thank
Good
you
night. I
all.
hope you feel better, Becky.
Yes,
Thank you
Becky,
very
hope you
much.
feel better.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks
Good
for
night,
coming, Dan.
everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Nice to meet you, Dan. Bye.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you.